All right, what's going on, y'all? I just wrapped up my morning run. I've got a lift this afternoon. Training for the 100-miler is going pretty fantastic lately. So, with the big goal I've got coming up, running this 100-miler, I'm doing everything I can to be consistent with getting these 2 days in, doing the run in the morning and the lift in the afternoon. With that being said, there's a lot of you out there that are hybrid training, or you are wanting to be a hybrid athlete and do that, but you have a busy schedule, whether that's work, family, whatever. You've got a busy schedule to where you're unable to do 2 days. Realistically, a lot of people are just unable to fit in the time to do 2 workouts a day. So today I'm going to tell y'all how you can effectively train as a hybrid athlete with only one workout per day, whether that be a run, a lift, or whatever you're training for, whatever that training modality is. I'm going to give you tips on how you can train once per day and still accomplish huge goals in the hybrid world. And then I'm actually going to give you some splits that you can work on that allow you to actually do that. So I'm going to go ahead, get back here, and then talk to you guys how to train as a hybrid athlete 1 time per day. All right, so let's get into it. So before I give you all the actual splits, and I've got 3 splits for y'all today, depending on what your current goals are with hybrid training. Before I give you all those splits, the caveat I've got for you is that while you're going to be able to absolutely effectively train for hybrid, doing strength and endurance together, only doing 1 session per day, whether that be an endurance-based session like a run or a strength-based session like a bodybuilding workout, you're going to be able to absolutely effectively train for hybrid only doing once per day. But depending on what your goal is, it might make it a lot more challenging only having 1 session per day. So my point here is if your goal is to be aesthetic, really build a really aesthetic physique, put on muscle mass and strength, while also, tackling really cool endurance challenges, let's say half marathon, you're absolutely going to be able to do that only doing 1 session per day. If the goal gets bigger than that, so the bigger the goal gets, the more it's going to make it challenging getting away with only 1 session per day. So for a good example is me currently, I'm currently training for a 100-mile ultra marathon while also maintaining my physique with strength and all of that. I'm just not going to be able to get away with only doing 1 session per day every single day. That's why most days throughout my week, I am doing 2 days. I've got a run in the morning and then a lift session in the evening. Sometimes I've even got functional workouts in there. So my point here is that depending on what your goal is, might make it more challenging to get away with only 1 session per day, but you absolutely can train for hybrid and have a killer physique and be improving even on the endurance side, only doing 1 session per day. So the 3 splits I've got for you today depend whether your current focus is more on the endurance side, the bodybuilding side, or if it's a complete balance between the 3. The reason is I've talked about this in several other videos that with hybrid training, endurance and strength are somewhat opposite modalities. It's for the most part, while some things do work together, for the most part, they almost work in opposite, meaning the better you get at one side of the spectrum, usually it takes away a little bit from the other, or at least it makes it harder to improve on the other side. So that's where I've talked about the hybrid spectrum. On one side of the spectrum, you've got strength. On one side of the spectrum, you've got endurance. And depending on where you are in your training block or whatever your goal is for that season will depend on where you're skewed at on the spectrum. And the spectrum where you're skewed at will change throughout the year depending on where you're at in your season. So that's why I've got 3 splits for y'all today, depending on, if you right now are in a really endurance focused season where you're focused on, accomplishing a big endurance goal, say like a marathon or an ultra marathon, all the way to the other side of the spectrum where you're more bodybuilding focused or strength based focused, where you're really trying to build up the physique. So with all the splits I've got for you today, they've got 6 sessions per week. So we've got only 1 session per day, and then it leaves 1 rest day per week. It's going to be a lot harder to get away with doing multiple rest days per week doing it this way, but you frankly should only need 1 rest day to recover from doing these 6 sessions per week. So let's go in and get into the split. So the first split I've got for you is if you are currently endurance focused. So this is where, right now you're currently training for a race. You're currently training for, say, half marathon, ultra marathon, Ironman, whatever it is. You're more on the endurance side of the spectrum. You're going to need to put more time and energy into that side. So with that, we've got 4 endurance-based sessions per week. And To keep things simple, when I'm talking about endurance or strength today, we're going to go ahead and talk about endurance. I'm going to use running as the example, and on the strength side, I'm going to use bodybuilding as the example. But you can go ahead and put in whatever modalities you actually train in, if you're not, training, specifically running or specifically bodybuilding. For example, if you're a power lifter and a CrossFitter, or if you're a power lifter and a cyclist or a swimmer, just go ahead and put in whatever modalities. But I'm personally going to use running on the endurance side, and then bodybuilding on the strength side. So on the endurance split, for this, you're going to have 4 runs per week, and you're going to have 2 lifts per week. Out of those runs, what I would do is do 2 zone 2 easy runs per week. So make those conversational pace. With that, that's really, really going ahead and building up your aerobic base. These should be easy runs, low to moderate distance. And then your third run of the week could be a speed session. So this could be a tempo workout. It could be an interval-based session on the track. But this is really building up, getting you some anaerobic work. And then your fourth run of the week would be your dedicated long run. This also should be easy in zone 2, conversational pace, but this is where you're really, developing that endurance and building up your mileage. So those would be the 4 runs per week. I would do 2 kind of base runs in zone 2. I would do 1 anaerobic speed session, and then I would do 1 long run. Then on the lifting side, the split for the lifting side, when you only have 2 sessions per week, the most optimal by far to maximize volume and intensity while still getting frequency in place, you're going to want to do full body sessions. So with this could be, going in and hitting every body part. A good example is, I've been testing out some new full body routines lately that I built out. And what I've got is one, I start with quads, and then I move right into chest. I do 2 movements for chest, 2 movements for shoulders, 2 movements for back, 1 movement for tris, 1 movement for bis. And then the other full body session, instead of quads, I do hamstrings, and I do the same thing. But I might move movements. But I do 2 other movements for chest, 2 other movements for shoulders, 2 other movements for back, 1 for bis, 1 for tris. That's how I would lay out the full body sessions, and then just making sure to go ahead and really, really maximize the intensity within each one of the sets. Really, really taking it to failure. You're going to need the intensity in place when you're not going to have as much volume and frequency. So if you go ahead and do that, you're absolutely going to be able to maintain your physique. And for a lot of you out there, you're actually going to be able to also improve your physique if you have this laid out right, and you put in the proper amount of intensity on those sessions. So that's how I would lay it out if I was wanting to do an endurance-based only 1 session per day hybrid training. Like I said, I do 4 runs and 2 lifts. And what you could do is do 2 runs, 1 lift, 1 run, 1 lift, and then rest day. But go ahead and try to alternate some days to where you're not doing all 4 runs in a row and then followed by your 2 lifts. Put the lifts in between the runs in there somewhere. So that's going to be if you're endurance focused. So now, if you're bodybuilding focused, the complete other side of the spectrum, this is the time of the season when you're actually really, really focused on building up the physique or building up the strength. And then maybe on the endurance side, you're more trying to maintain what you've got. It's going to be really, really hard to put on size and strength while also improving a lot on the endurance side. You can improve it a little bit, but it's going to be tough to do both at the same time. So this is where you're going to be more at a maintaining level of mileage on the endurance side. And then on the strength side, this is where you're going to be able to really put a lot of focus into increasing volume and increasing intensity as well, which is going to help with those muscle tissue gains and strength gains and all of that. With that, you're also going to need to eat for that. Say on the endurance side, it might even make sense to pull back on food to where you can lose weight, or you're trying to have more of a streamlined physique. While on this side, this is where you could be a little bit more in a bulk focus. But that's a topic for a whole other time. So with this is the complete opposite. This would be 4 lifts per week and 2 runs per week. So with the 2 runs per week, I would make them both easy runs as far as heart rate goes. So put both in zone 2. I wouldn't do, really frankly, any anaerobic here. If you are going to do anaerobic work, it'd be, say, 1 speed session every 3 weeks. But for here, your 2 runs per week, they're going to be zone 2 runs. moderate distance, or you could even have one of those long runs. So you could do one moderate distance run and then one long run per week. And then your 4 lifting sessions, the split here is going to be push, pull, legs, and then you're going to repeat. So what I mean by that is, on week 1, you're going to do push, pull, legs, push. The next week would be pull, legs, push, pull. Then it would be legs, push, pull, legs. The point here is that every week you're going to essentially just go into the next session that falls in line of push, pull, legs. Reason here is you're now going to have even more volume on the lifting side, because now instead of only saying hitting 2 movements per body part, say 2 movements for chest, and each movement only has say 2 working sets, now you could do 3 or 4 movements for chest, and each one has 2 or 3 working sets. So now you're able to bump up the volume quite a bit, because now instead of having to hit full body all in one session, now you're only hitting say chest, shoulders, and tris, and then on pull day you're hitting back and bis. Now you have the time available to go ahead and add more volume on the lifting side. So that's what I would do there. I would go ahead and say do push followed by run, then you could do pull, legs, then another run, however you want to set it up. But once again, alternate the days to where you're not doing all your runs back to back and then all your lifts back to back. Intermingle them, and then of course stick your rest day in there where you find appropriate. Okay, so that's the endurance side, and that's all the way on the bodybuilding side. Now I'm going to give you, if you want a direct balance, between endurance and bodybuilding. The time where you'd want this is, during a time when you are actually focusing on, improving a little bit in both. Maybe you don't have an A race on the schedule. Maybe you're in that kind of early part of the training block for building to an A race, and you've got some B races in there. Maybe you are, currently wanting to diet down for the beach and get more of an aesthetic physique. There's a lot of times out of the year where you're going to have more of a balanced split, directly balancing bodybuilding and running. And this is also applicable to all of you out there that maybe you don't have, these huge aspirational goals when it comes to hybrid training, but you just enjoy it. You enjoy lifting and running pretty equally. This is a really, really good split for you. So this is going to be 3 runs and then 3 lifts per week. So on the endurance side with the lifting, you had full body as your split. On the bodybuilding side, you had push, pull, legs. Now on this one, this is going to be an upper, lower, upper split. So this is going to be somewhat similar to full body. This is kind of the direct blend between a full body and a push-pull leg split. So this is going to give you 2 upper body sessions per week and then 1 lower body session per week. So essentially you have a leg day and then you've got 2 upper body days. Now on the upper body days, now since you don't have the leg part in the beginning like you would on the full body sessions, now you can add a little bit more volume, maybe an extra movement or an extra few sets per body part on upper. So if you on full body day, if you're on the endurance side of the spectrum, if you had 2 movements for chest and each one of those had 2 working sets. Now with an upper body, you could have 2 chest movements, but they have 3 or 4 working sets. So you could add a whole other movement. You're going to have a little bit more time in place since now you don't have quads at the beginning or hamstrings at the beginning. Now you're going to be able to add a little bit more volume to both the upper side and on your leg day. You're going to be able to do a little bit more of an intense leg day. And then when it comes to the running side, you're going to have a lot of flexibility here. So either you could do 2 kind of base aerobic runs, in zone 2, and then a long run, or you could do 1 kind of just base run in zone 2, moderate distance. You could have an anaerobic speed workout, and you could have a long run. So you're kind of tackling 3 of the main running workouts per week, and then the lifting. So those are my 3 favorite splits if you only have time or energy or whatever it is to only be able to train once per day. This is how I would go ahead and really, really focus on hybrid training. If I only had 1 session per day, like I said, this is absolutely not optimal for a lot of you out there that have really, really kind of intense hybrid goals. And if you really are trying to improve quite quickly at either one of the modalities or both, a lot of times you're going to need to put in some 2 days in there. But this is how you could go ahead and still effectively train for hybrid training with only 1 session per day. And then from here too, if you ever have a moment where you've got a day where you have some extra time available, all that, this is where then you could go ahead and go and put in another workout when you have that time. But this is going to give you that flexibility to go ahead and do that. But this is absolutely an effective way to train for hybrid and still get a lot out of it, still hit your goals, and be a killer hybrid athlete doing this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button. Definitely leave any comments or questions down below. I love going ahead and answering y'all's comments. And this video actually came from several of y'all actually telling me that you didn't have time to be training as much as I'm training, or some of these other hybrid athletes you see on social. So I take a lot of the questions and comments y'all give me as ideas to go ahead and talk to y'all about. So definitely leave any comments or questions down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Be happy, be positive, be powerful. Have a great rest of your day.